Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday to you all. January 25th, 2026, almost September. What is wrong with you, 12? Well, I'm sitting here trying to stay warm. I don't know what you guys are doing, but most of the world, at least in the southern portion, is gripped by some kind of wintry mix. So let's talk about that a minute. Let's talk about that. Hey, Rondi Potter, how are you doing? If you're not captured by this wintry mix, God bless you. Here we're going to talk about box weather, destructive snow, and ice storm. Look at this. It is something to be said for all that wintry ice and mix. We're dealing with it here in Texas, and we're not used to this. We're not used to this at all. Because if you've ever been to Texas, you understand Texas is not built for this kind of weather. And as you see on that weather map, it is spread all over the southern portion, and it's hitting hard and it's hitting fast. Currently, right now, the temperature is 13 degrees here where I am. Where I am in Texas, 13 degrees. And here in the Dallas Fort Worth area today, and yesterday it has been beneath freezing. I've talked to a lot of my friends and they've told me that they got a lot of wintry mix, a lot of ice, and a lot of craziness from the drivers that are trying to maintain the highways. If you're in any of these areas, please be careful out there and try to drive safe because as you can see on the screen, it's not for the faint of heart. I know there's been a lot of accidents and a lot of wrecks in this area, and it's hardcore. It's hardcore as you see on the map there. So hopefully this stuff starts to thaw out, starts to get a little better because you know what? People got to work. People got to make that money. And there's many people that are without power, that are without those nice things we like to call heat, those nice things we like to call luxuries. In this time in our world, we have this mentality that more is better. So there's a lot of times where people hear storms, whether it be in the summer, whether it be in the spring, or whether it be in the winter, hurricane season, and guess what? They flock to the grocery stores and they gather more than they need. And those people that truly need it, they can't get it. And it's terrible because most of the time, the people that need it are unable to get just even a loaf of bread. I was in the store earlier, and the whole bread aisle was empty. The whole bread aisle. I'm talking about wheat bread. I'm talking about honey wheat. I'm talking about any kind of bread product that you can name. You know what was left? Take a guess. Rondi, you have a guess? Take a guess on what was left on the aisles of the bread aisle. I bet Rondi will be able to guess it if she's still here. If you're tuning in on replay, guess what that bread product was? It was something that most people don't even eat. Bagels. There was bagels. There was, yeah, breadsticks, things like that. The rest of the aisle of bread was empty, totally empty. So, what makes our country become fanatical whenever we're facing any kind of inclement weather, whether it be snow, whether it be rain, whether it be hurricanes, whether it be fires during the summer in the California, Western, Pacific Northwest? What makes people go into these stores and shop like they've never had anything in their cupboard before? Anything in their pantries? What makes them do that? Because, most of the time, if the electricity goes out in the winter, that's a good comment. People aren't so self reliant anymore. That is true. But think about this, you're shopping for milk, you're shopping for bread, you're shopping for eggs and meat, orange juice, coffee, whatever it might be. Now, I'm not talking about the coffee that you make, I'm talking about the coffee that is already made. So you take all this stuff home, and then your electricity goes out. Then what do you have within a couple of days if you're trapped indoors? You're stuck with meat that is going bad. You're stuck with milk that is going bad. You're stuck with all this stuff that's going bad. Because I'm sure many people can't cook it fast enough. The wintry times in our country are some of the most devastating for a lot of people. Because not only do they buy more than they need, sometimes they throw away more than they need. Have you ever known people that done that? I mean, this is a podcast. This is not the other type of stuff that you're used to seeing on the channel. This is me just talking to the audience and talking about world events. Hey, Walt Harris, thank you sir, for joining the podcast. I'm discussing about people buying more than they need during the impending doom of the media pushing the agendas, whether it be during hurricane season, during fires, during the wintry blast of 2026, whatever it might be, people go crazy in the grocery stores. Let me rewind to 2021. Do y'all remember 2021? Do y'all remember that awful virus that was sweeping the country? Where people were going into the grocery stores wrapped in plastic. Do y'all remember that? They were wrapping themselves in plastic, wrapping themselves with surgical booties and surgical masks, and they had weird contraptions on their faces because they were scared to death of contacting something as tragic as was sweeping the country and the world. So, do you remember during those times the top selling items of all time? Can you name it in the chat? Can you tell me what the top selling two items were during 2021? Anybody? Anybody in the chat, tell me. Can you tell me what the top two selling items were in 2021 that people were hoarding and buying and you couldn't get any of? Toilet paper was the number one thing that you could not find anywhere. People were gathering toilet paper like it was gold. Hand sanitizer, yes, hand sanitizer. I remember that as well. But there was one more thing that people were hoarding while they were buying H2O. They were buying water and toilet paper like they were going out of style. And mask, yes, you're right. But can you remember those times whenever you would go in and just want to get a 4-pack of toilet paper and there was nothing to grab? Even the cheapest stuff, even the 99-cent 1-ply toilet paper was not available. I mean, you have to get pretty desperate to want to use the 1-ply. But man, desperate times call for desperate measures. Anybody in the chat use the 1-ply or have to use the 1-ply? I'm not ashamed to say it. I had to buy 1-ply. That's when you got a bidet. All right. All right. All right. A bidet. I've heard of multiple people getting bidets. Yes, I've heard of that. And you said it changed your life for the better. Okay. But think about that. The 1-ply toilet paper. You know, I got desperate one time. I went into Walmart and I was looking for toilet paper. I was looking for something to use this toilet paper. The only thing that was going through my mind was the 3 shells. You know what I mean? You remember that movie, The 3 Shells? They used the 3 shells. I think it was, can't even remember the movie. But they were talking about, well, what did they use in the future? The 3 shells. Well, think about that. I was in Walmart and I was thinking, I am not using 3 shells. I am not buying 3 shells to use for toilet paper. I'm not doing it. There has to be something I can use as toilet paper, and I'm not going to use a sock or anything like that. I'm going to find something to use. I ended up over there in the RV section, and behind all the RV stuff, lo and behold, they had RV toilet paper, the small packs of 4. And those things were like $2 for a 4-pack. And I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. I have I have found what I came to look for. The Almighty has blessed me today. I have found it. The RV toilet paper works so good. I had to grab a couple off the shelves and go and hide them in the store. That way, if I needed to come back later on, I could find them. But I'm going to ask you guys something. I'm going to ask you guys, oh, yes, Rondi, coffee filters work in a pinch. You're right. I'm going to ask you guys that are listening right now, what is it with toilet paper? How do people go through so much toilet paper in 3 days? Answer me that. Answer me that. How do people use that much toilet paper in 3 days? I have no idea. I usually buy the Charmin, the double rolls and all that. I usually buy those when I go and buy toilet paper, and that lasts me about a month, I guess, because I'm hardly ever home. So I'm good with that. But I can see a big family going through toilet paper. Do you believe that people, especially Americans, do you believe that we're wasteful individuals? Do you believe that we waste a lot more than we use? That is the question of the night for you podcast listeners tonight with me. Do you believe that we waste more than we use across the board? Do you know wasteful people that don't eat leftovers? Do you know wasteful people that just get more than they need and they leave it on their plate and they just throw it in the trash? Put it down to the garbage disposal. Do you believe that we're wasteful as Americans? If you're watching this, type it in the chat. Let me know. Or if you're watching this on replay, let me know. Do you believe that we're wasteful as Americans? Do you believe that sometimes we are fanatical and paranoid to the point of becoming hoarders. Tell me what you think. Do you believe that sometimes we we sometimes get just because we can? You know, we have some money and we have some extra money, or if we get food stamps or whatever it might be. Do you believe that sometimes we get stuff that we don't need? That's for everybody who's listening right now in this world, in the US, wherever you might be listening from. Do you believe that Americans are wasteful individuals? Do you believe that as Americans, we take for granted everything that we have at our disposal? You walk into a grocery store, there's multitudes of varieties. There's multitudes of varieties of any kind of anything you may want in most places. The prices vary from your budget to your taste buds. Sometimes you don't even look at the prices. I've been guilty of that, and I know there's been certain people that I know in life that are guilty of that as well. That sometimes they don't look at the prices and they just gather just to gather. Nothing wrong with that. No judgment. I'm not reading that out loud, but I laughed at that, Walt Harris. But think about that a little bit. You know, we walk into any grocery store, any outlet store, Walmart, Target, whatever those big name stores are, we can find just about anything and everything we need or want. Do you believe that most of the time our needs and wants are a little twisted, maybe a little off kilter a little bit? Or do you believe that if you got it, might as well spend it? What are your thoughts on that? Give me your thoughts on that, because I know a lot of people, they say, well, you know what? I have it, I earned it, I'm going to spend it, I can't take it with me. Okay, fair enough. What are your thoughts on that? If you have your check and your bills are paid, or even if they're not paid, you're going to get what you want because you can't take it with you. Have you ever heard that? You ever heard an old timer say that? You ever heard somebody who is not very, I guess, thrifty with their money, and they say, well, you know what, you might as well spend it, you got it. Ronnie Potter, she says, I'm not a spender. Okay. Anybody else like to chime in? Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Are you frugal? Were you raised in the times when, you know, a penny earned is a penny saved? Do you still pick up pennies and nickels and dimes off the floor if you find them? I know a lot of people that still do that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I like to buy in bulk to make my life easier. Like if I'm at Ollie's and they have different mustards for $1.19, I'm buying all varieties. See that? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The different varieties that we have as Americans to be able to buy in all varieties. I can't imagine being in a country where we're told what we can get, how much we can get, and what kind we can get. You know what I mean? You know, I have people texting me that if you haven't been watching football today, I got a breaking news here. The Seahawks and the Patriots are heading to the Super Bowl. If you are an NFL fan, the Patriots and the Seahawks are representing the NFL in this year's Super Bowl. If you're fans of either of those teams, congratulations. I won't be watching. Walt also says I buy things all the time. I'm also in debt up to my eyeballs. Well, you know, I believe that's another topic for this conversation. As Americans and most people, especially the younger generation, they are buying with credit cards food. I saw a youngster the other day pull out his credit card, and it wasn't a debit card. He was paying for food with his credit card. No judgment. I've just never seen that before, but I see that a lot more than I've seen that at any time in my life. Debt is a thing that we all possess in this country. That is true. I myself have some debt that I'm trying to knock down. There's a lot of things that we have misconstrued in our country, our wants and our needs. Every year there seems to be a new upgrade to an iPhone or a Samsung product, Android. And many people must have these things. And do you ever notice they always come out around tax time? The new upgrades always seem to come around tax time. No judgment there. Once again, I'm just saying the mass marketers of these products know when and where to do these things, because what do people do when they file their taxes and they're getting some kind of return back? Most of the time, they go buy something that they've been putting off getting for themselves since Christmas. What do you think about that? Do you believe that tax money should be used to pay down bills, or do you believe that it is indeed free money? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you believe. Because this podcast is just about that, just about talking about different topics. Because true crime gets boring to me, and it's gotten boring, even though I still cover it. I'm trying to reprogram my channel to be a multi-dimensional process where I talk about just about anything that I want to talk about. And people will tune in if they want to talk about it or hear about it as well. Tonight, we're talking about the weather. We're talking about how people thought patterns is about their finances, about whether we really need, or is it our want that drives us. I used to get a tax refund until I got married. Now I don't. I know a lot of people in that boat. I know a lot of people in that boat. And if you have children, I'm sure you getting a certain amount for each child. I don't even know the amount these days. I know at one point it was like 1,500 a kid, but I don't know if it's at least 2,000 at this point. But tax time is a big time for a lot of people. It's like an extension of the holidays. It is an extension of Christmas, New Year's Eve, Halloween, Thanksgiving. It is the cultivation of a year of hard work and labor and free money that is owed to whoever. Me, myself, I'm trying to get to the zero balance on my taxes, because that's whenever you really know that it's been a successful year. That free money that you think that you are getting, I've been told, is not really free money. It is money that is delegated somewhere along the line that you end up having to pay back somewhere, somehow. Somebody has to pay back. There's nothing in this world that is free. You remember those stimulus checks we all received a couple years ago? And people were happy about that. We really needed it. It was a time where there was a lot of uncertainty going on. The stimulus check came out, and we thought, the government's finally in our favor. And here we are in 2026, and everything is astronomical and through the roof. Groceries, gasoline, insurance, you name it, you're paying for it because for 2 years our country was barely crawling due to something that the world thought was going to take us all out. I agree with that statement, Walt. I really do. We pay enough taxes as is. We get taxed when we make, when we get paid, we get taxed. When we go by, we get taxed upon tax, upon tax, upon tax. There should just be one-time tax. You get paid, you pay that tax, okay. Food is what it is. Gas is what it is. But for some reason, it's never been that way. And I believe it probably will never be that way. There's a lot of things that we shouldn't have to pay for. I don't know how you feel about this, but like I said, this podcast is just about conversation. So you tell me what you feel about this. Do you feel that we should have to pay for water? Should we have to pay for water? Is there really any, I mean, the filtering of water and all that, I get it. I'm not an idiot, but I'm talking in general, should water really be that? I'm talking about bottled water. I'm talking about, you getting water at a restaurant. You say water, yes, sewage, no. Okay, fair enough. Should we have to pay for, what's another example? Let's see, something that we pay for that drives Americans crazy. Give me an example of something in the chat that we pay for that you believe should be free or should be at low cost. What is something that we pay for that you believe should be free or low cost? Type that in the chat. Let me know. Water should be free. Okay. Refuse. What do you mean? Water should be free. I believe it should be free. I mean, I know you go into a restaurant, they're starting to charge you. Like so many people are getting water and lemon as a drink. You're still paying like $1.25 for that water and that lemon. So what are you really paying for, the lemon or the water? Has the cost of living, have the cost of lemon gone up, or is it the water that's gone up? Trash pickup is free for Pittsburgh City residents. Okay. I didn't know what that was, but now that you typed that out, I get that. Yeah, trash pickup, you pay for that? Do you believe, here's a topic for you guys, since we're talking about wages and everything else. Do you believe that waiters and waitresses should get a pay raise from 215? Do you believe that they should at least make minimum wage as a waiter or a waitress? Have any of you ever been a waiter or waitress or something of that sort where you work for tips? I'm not talking exotic dancer. I'm not talking, male stripper. I'm not talking any of that. But have you ever been working with the public and you work for tips? Do you believe that those tips should either be untaxable or you should have your wage spiked up to minimum wage, whatever that is? Okay, yes, minimum wage plus tips, not $2.19 an hour. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Because you know what? They really work hard, some of them. Some of the waiters and waitresses I know work hard for that money. And they could have a big table, and that big table leave them $5 on a top of 8 people. I mean, that's terrible. Here's another comment. Tips shouldn't be taxed because everyone lies about what they collect. Okay. Good thoughts tonight coming from the chat. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this kind of podcast because it is different. And it's something that I'm starting to enjoy a lot more. And I'm starting to enjoy the on the spot reporting in the community while I'm on my trips, all that. But, anyways, back to the topic. If servers, waitresses, waiters made minimum wage, maybe the tips could be an extra portion from the everybody in the restaurant puts all the tips in the jar and then they divide them up equally. I don't know. I don't know if there is a solution for that. Hey, Jurgen757, thank you for being here. I saw you the other night. I didn't get a chance to say hello. Thank you for returning. You know, we're discussing about whether waitresses and waiters should make minimum wage or whether taxes should be taxable or not. We were talking about toilet paper shortage and things like that, but we've shifted gears to waiters and waitresses. Um, I know some hard-working waiters and waitresses. And you know, to be fair, there's some people that may have made some mistakes in their lives that they can't get other jobs and they can get these jobs. So why should they have to suffer because they've made some mistakes in their lives where they might have a record and they can't get the same type job because those records don't let them be employable due to the employee's stipulations, you know? It's something to be said for an individual to be working at all for money. Because the money's out here. The money's out here to be grabbed. The money is here to be made. Well, whether you want to make it or how you want to make it, that indeed is another topic. You know, I know restaurant workers, they're they're some of the frontline people that we could not do without. Okay, here's a good topic. Should ICE be unaliving American citizens who have a carry permit for a weapon? And I know what you're talking about, but I don't know enough of that situation to really have um, a say in that. But for the sake of just answering your question, no, any law enforcement should not have the authority to kill an American citizen based on you owning a weapon. That is part of our Second Amendment rights. I don't know enough about that story, but I will look into it and I'll comment on it on a later podcast. Be sure to remind me and we will definitely discuss that. But no, I don't agree that, I should not be killing American citizens. I know in Texas we don't have to have a permit anymore. It's a um concealed weapon state. Like we can carry concealed weapons in the open unless the business has a sign that says, you can't bring in your 44 mag into the grocery store or whatever. It's okay. It's all right. Well, you're fine, man. You're fine. Don't say you're sorry to me. You're fine. I just don't know enough about that case to really keep it going. You know what I mean? Um, you're fine. You're perfectly fine. But here in Texas, you can have a gun. You can go to the laundromat with your 44 mag on your hip. It's just a podcast. We're discussing wages. We're discussing open carry. We're discussing just about anything. You know, um, it is a hot story. I saw that earlier, Walt, and I wanted to kind of dive into that, but I'm gonna wait a little bit to really have the time to do it. I might really look into that this next week sometime. But it is a hot topic. You're right. Um, we're discussing open carry at this moment. I mean, here in Texas, I don't know where you're from, ink blots, but wherever you're from, I don't know if your state is an open carry state, but here in Texas, we have open carry as long as they don't have, and as long as they don't have a sign that says you can't bring it into the establishment. I mean, I believe that the way things are these days in our country and some of the most bigger cities or some of the smaller cities, you just never know when you might need to have your strap on you. Heck, I'm in the market to buy a 40 cal. I'm looking to buy a 40 cal because all I have is an AR. So, it's a little too big to be carrying on the street. So I'm looking to get me a 40 cal because, I believe that that will be big enough to stop most people if I indeed need to pull it out and use it. Of course, I could go with the 12 gauge shotgun and, that would stop just about anybody. And you know, but a lot of people don't believe in guns, and I understand that. I totally get it. I myself am not one of them. I didn't have a lot of guns until and I still don't, but I didn't really start shooting until probably the last couple of years, because I picked it up as a hobby. Because, you just never know when you need to be pretty accurate with your shot. Any of you in the chat have a 12 gauge shotgun? That is where I got my name from. Even though I changed the spelling, that is where I got the name from. Um, but something else that is really a topic to be discussed is whether or not our schools are as safe as they really need to be. In 2026, do you believe that our schools have done anything proactive to make them safer? Do you believe that, we haven't heard of any, knock on wood, of any violent school shootings as of late that I've heard, but do you believe that our public schools, and only speak on your area because I can only speak on mine, but I go into the schools now and it really, I mean, there's a metal detector, there's a person at the front, but as far as still being as secure as I think it should be, I don't believe it is most of the time. Yeah, 12 gauge with one, two. Yeah, yeah, it does wonders. You're right. I don't own any weapons of mass destruction outside of my bicep. There you go. There you go. Look at them big guns, right? But our schools. Here's a question for discussion. Okay, here's a question for you guys in the chat. Do you believe that the more lax our schools used to be, it brought more violence? Or do you believe that the more tightened our schools became, and it brought even more violence? Because I graduated in 1991. In 1991, most of the individuals in the parking lot had shotguns in the gun racks. They had rifles in the gun racks. Hell, every guy that was my friend on the football team worked out in the cotton gins, or, they had cattle or whatever, the ranches, whatever they did. Most of the guys carried a knife on them. I can't recall one stab ever in my 4 years of high school, my, you know, the rest of my time in school. I can't recall one shooting other than a kid shooting a trooper, you know, on a Christmas Eve night on the interstate. But other than that, I can't recall any other mass shootings on campus. And we had those doors where they didn't have handles to the outside. You open them from the inside. You had to get in through the front of the high school. There was no metal detectors. There was nobody guarding the doors. There was nobody monitoring the hallway. There was not a resource officer. There was not any of that stuff. You were free to roam. It was an open campus. You could go to your car at any time. You didn't have any of these kind of restrictions that they have now. The question is, do you believe that the harsher the campuses get on security, quote unquote security, does it not bring a mentality that kind of echoes the security that they're trying to maintain? Nothing wrong with guns in the right hands. You're right. Guns don't kill people. People with ill intent kill people. And that makes from our law enforcement, ICE agents, all the way around the spectrum. Nobody exempt from that statement I just made. You know, that little school that I went to, people handled discrepancy different at that time. You handled it with your hands, you knuckled up. You went to the park and you knuckled up and you fought until you were both too tired to swing. You shook hands, shrugged it off, and went about your business. If it wasn't good enough for you at that time, you did it again the next day or later on that night. Or you continued on until you acknowledge, hey, I can't whoop them, or they're not going to be able to whoop me, one or the other. But you didn't go home, grab your daddy's shotgun, and come back to the park and blast them away because you lost the fight. That's not how it happened. Different time, different rules. But what happened to those times? What happened to those times? It seems like as Americans, we have gotten away from a lot of things that were simple. It seems like everything these days must be as complex and astronomical in nature to figure out the equations to walking across the street must mean that you know every analytical route from point A to point Z, and you must configure it A to Z. It's almost insanity. Is it because we have the technology to type it in there and get the desired result that we want? Or is it just being too much and doing too much instead of just going with your gut intuition? What do you think? Do you think that we overanalyze the simplest things? That we lack trust because we don't trust in ourselves? Or do you believe that we just make it more exciting the more we question? Hell, if they would have never questioned how to get to the moon, would we have ever gotten there? Oh, there's a topic right there. Many people believe we never went to the moon. Not when supposedly we did. You know, it's all those what ifs, what could have been, what should, what could, what would. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I'm not saying that tonight. But in one form, fashion, time, we must come up with an answer that we can live with, an answer that we can hold our heads up high and say, you know what, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. No matter if nobody agrees with me, I'm good with that result. That solution is good enough for me. I don't think I'll ever hold my head up high to agree with mass hoarding on toilet paper and water. I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But you never know. I might get to that point and say, hey, maybe people do need a lot of toilet paper. Maybe they do need a lot of water. There's one water that doesn't ever sell out. Excuse me. And I dislike this water with a passion. And if you'd like it, no disrespect here. Dasani water is the worst water on the planet. Coca-Cola failed us. That is a Coca-Cola product. Coca-Cola failed us trying to peddle Dasani on us. Unfortunately, Dasani is forced upon us on every sporting event in the country. I've been to multitudes of stadiums, concerts, you name it, and that is the only water that they serve most of the time at Dasani. Let me know what you think about Dasani water in the chat or in the replay comments once you listen to this later on. But I'm running out of topics, at least for tonight, because I've done quite a bit of these today and I've been quite busy on the YouTube channel as well as some of the other social platforms because this freaking ice storm will not go anywhere. I am ready for springtime and I am ready for summer. I don't know how many of you love winter. I don't know how many of you love being isolated in a house and limited to where you can go and what you can do. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Until we speak again, I'm going to ask the maestro to do what he does. Y'all have a wonderful night and stay safe out there. Until next time, be good.